You don't talk to folks. They thank you so much for spending trillions of dollars on the super wealthy and cutting our health care. That's what they tell you?
This exchange reveals a deeper fight over policy and reality.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Zeldin, for being here, talking about the EPA budget. Just in sort of pulling back a little bit over the course of the last 14 months, you all pushed for a massive spending bill, $4.5 trillion. Most of it went to tax cuts that overwhelmingly favored the super wealthy. You added trillions of dollars to the debt, cut healthcare by nearly $1 trillion, and now you are going to cut the EPA by 50%. You were a member of Congress. Would you have supported all of this as a member of Congress?
The working families tax cut, I absolutely would have voted yes. And as I'm hearing from Americans across the country, they're really happy to get a lot more back in their tax return. And I would say that on behalf of all of those Americans who have shared that, while I can share that feedback with President Trump, I'd also say to the Republicans on this committee who voted for it, thank you for doing your part, understanding the economic concerns of Americans across this country. And
you don't spend a lot of time, Mr.
Zeldin,
you don't spend a lot of time with people right there. That really isn't true. No one's really saying thank you for cutting their health care, for adding trillions of dollars.
That shows how out of touch you are, that you believe that Americans are not happy to get more back in their tax return.
No, you don't talk to folks. There's no, like,
I visited all 50 states in my first 9 months.
And people come up to you and they say,
thank you.
They say, thank you so much for spending trillions of dollars on the super wealthy and cutting our health care. That's what they tell you? No.
They don't repeat your sound bites.
And they're just desperately asking you to shift all this money.
We appreciate having more money in our wallets.
All this
we appreciate
money
being
back
able to afford to heat our home and fill up our gas tank.
It's so absurd.
Have our groceries in
it's
our
so
refrigerator.
absurd. Stop.
That's what they say. So that's what they say. They don't repeat your talking points.
They don't say that. They absolutely don't.
We're
all members of Congress.
They don't say that they're grateful for having more back in their tax return.
No,
that's your position. That shows how
$1 trillion, and you're shifting money to the states. So this is Russ Vought, right? He's the head of OMB. He sets the policy for all of you. He came to you and said, I got to cut your budget by 50%. The EPA, it's there to protect the environment and Americans. And you just say, okay, is that how it works? Like, because this is Russ Vought, who was the architect, one of the key architects of Project 2025, which was, we're going to decimate the federal government, shift the cost burden back to states, and we'll free up all this money for tax cuts for the super wealthy. And you were like, okay, that's fine?
No, that is not what happened.
So Russ Vought doesn't make this call?
The budget that I'm here before Congress is a budget that I support, that I take responsibility for crafting.
Well, I suspect he is glad to hear you say that.
I'm sure he's happy with the budget that he
crafted.
But that's not true.
It is true.
Okay, well, you're entitled to your own version of reality, I guess.
Same with you and how happy
it's your
people
position
are
that our agency didn't put together
this
our
tax
budget.
plan where they're just getting demolished in terms of their health care. I'm talking about health care cuts coupled with EPA cuts. People are obviously worried about their health. Don't you agree that's a concern with the healthcare cuts, and now you're going to pollute more of the water and air?
Actually, the feedback that I get is that people are happy that
where's this feedback coming from? I don't like.
So it's America. When you actually get out and you travel the country, and I've been to all 50 states across this country. And when I travel, I get an opportunity to hear feedback from Americans.
You touch ground and you talk to people, and they're running up to you and they're just saying, "Thank you so much for cutting the EPA. Thank you so much for cutting our health care. We are so glad that trillions of dollars are going to the richest people in this country."
They don't want us to get rid of entire sectors of our economy through regulation. They're happy when they have consumer choice. They're thrilled when they know the stop-start
alarming.
is going to get removed. They want manufacturers.
So last question.
They want.
Last question.
The ones
they do.
Demand.
That's
the feedback that I hear from Americans. Yeah.
All right. Last question. The data centers. Talk about the analysis you've done on the pollution, water, air, noise.
So what I've been doing in my travels.
You have so many binders. I just want to know, like, is one of them the analysis work that you've done on data centers?
Yeah.
Can I see the binder? Which binder does analysis? Yeah. Which one of it does? Like, I've never seen any. There's so many binders.
We do a lot of work. We prepare.
Yeah, I'm sure. So which one?
What do you think? They're all blank?
Can you? What is the analysis?
How about I just answer off the top of my head? Data centers. I've been traveling the entire country. The good thing about data centers that are being built across this country, and fortunately,
for big tech, it's been great for big tech. It's been terrible for our communities because no one's protecting them, which is what you're supposed to do. I yield back.
Arkansas about the $1.1 billion benefit that they're getting as Entergy ratepayers because of the Google Center in West Memphis.
At the center of the discussion is the Environmental Protection Agency's budget and broader fiscal decisions that include major tax cuts, changes to healthcare funding, and proposed reductions in regulatory capacity. One side of the conversation frames these policies as delivering relief to working Americans through increased take-home pay and reduced federal spending. The argument is that when people see more money in their paychecks, that translates into immediate, tangible benefit. But the challenge raised in response is about distribution and consequences. Critics of this approach point out that large-scale tax cuts, particularly when skewed toward higher income earners, can be paired with significant reductions in public services. In this case, concerns were raised about healthcare reductions and proposed cuts to environmental protection funding. The underlying question is whether short-term financial gains for some households might come at the cost of long-term public investment in health, safety, and environmental oversight. Another key theme in the exchange is representation and feedback. There is a disagreement over what ordinary Americans are actually saying. One perspective suggests that citizens are broadly appreciative of tax reductions and increased refunds. The opposing view challenges that assumption, arguing that in real-world conversations with constituents, concerns often focus more on rising costs of living, healthcare access, and environmental quality rather than abstract claims about tax policy benefits. This is where the conversation becomes less about numbers and more about perception versus lived experience. When policymakers say they're hearing from Americans, it raises an important question: which Americans, and in what contexts? Town halls, state visits, and everyday interactions can produce very different impressions depending on who is engaged and who is not.